The CT scan showed that literally all of his bones were broken, every single one. And this usually only happens with high impact trauma, like getting hit by a train or some type of ridiculous fall, like jumper injuries.
Mm-hmm. Jumper injuries can be crazy because you won't see a lot, depending on how the person lands. You might not see a lot externally.
I'm sure he's fine.
It's all internal, yeah.
And then you go to just full autopsy and everything is...
It's also crazy when their like tox comes back and we see how intoxicated they are, because that also plays a big part in like how much injury they have or how little injury
the
they
more
have.
like relaxed you are, you might not have as many broken bones. But if you like tense up, yeah.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to perform an autopsy?
Ever wanted to know how accurate your favorite crime drama is?
If you're brave enough,
join us inside the morgue. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Inside the Morgue. We are your favorite hosts and pathology duo, Jess and Alice. And this week we are returning to an old favorite of ours, not The Coroner, because there was a show called The Coroner,
which was awful.
This is just Coroner. Coroner, and we watched season 2, episode 2, titled Borders for this episode. And we have some interesting like blunt force injuries to talk about with you guys in this episode. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it.
All right, we start with a man. He's driving a truck on these like back roads, desert type area.
He's rocking out too. He's like jamming.
Also, yeah, the show's in Canada, so I don't know like where exactly.
Oh yeah, that's right. I always forget they're in Canada.
Yeah. So he's on these back roads and he hits something, and then he stops the truck. He goes to check it out. He like gags and vomits at the sight of what he saw, and then he calls for help. So then we quick cut to Jenny arriving on the scene, and the forensics unit is already there, like processing everything. And Jenny is the coroner. She goes up to the driver who hit the person, and she's like looking at everything, talking to him. He's like, "Oh my God, am I a murderer? Like I didn't mean to hit him. I didn't even see him. I felt so bad for this man."
Mm-hmm.
And they're wondering how this man that he hit like could have walked out all the way out there in the middle of nowhere. And the person, when she first arrives on scene, is covered in like a tarp / like a sheet, which I'm going to give a green flag because it is outside in somewhat of public view. So we would do the same thing if we were on scene. Like officers would cover the body with a sheet before we arrived.
Right. Yeah. I also, you never really see the full body.
No, which I'm going to talk about later at the autopsy scene.
But I did think what we did see looked pretty realistic. Like, you saw like a broken wrist with the hand out, and the ankle was a different way. Like, and it looked pretty legit to some of the like blunt impact injuries or like high impact injuries that we've seen.
Yeah, that was pretty accurate.
Yeah.
So Jenny, like we said, the hands and the ankles, she's looking at all of that and the clothing to see if there's anything that they can use to help ID this man, because they right now don't know who he is. He's a John Doe. And so Jenny goes over, she's talking to the driver again, and the driver says that he was on his way to work, and he works at a construction site, and then this person just came out of nowhere. The driver didn't even see him, and she's wondering, could he have already been on the road while the driver was already, like, driving?
Yeah.
And that's why he didn't see him for some reason?
Like, was he already laying out in the road?
Yeah. So Jenny says one hit with the truck definitely couldn't have done as much damage as what the body already had. He had a lot of impact injuries that you see with like high velocity impact injuries, not just from a regular car crash.
Mm-hmm.
And then some like common injuries that we see with MVAs. You see a lot of brain and head injuries, like concussions, traumatic brain injuries, some skull fractures. You could have neck and spinal cord injuries. There could be leg fractures, knee injuries, ankle and foot injuries.
Sometimes, like, I don't think I've ever personally seen a case, but I remember in school, you can see, like bumper injuries, are very common, like, in this area of the leg. So you can tell, like, point of impact, like, what side, like, if they were walking into the street, what side the car was coming from that hit them. Yeah.
You could measure, like, how high up the bumper was,
and kind of help identify with the kind of car if it ended up being, like, a hit and run in that way. Yeah.
Internal injuries too, like organ damage, internal bleeding, chest injuries, rib fractures. Sometimes you see road rash if they're like thrown from the car.
Road rash is gnarly.
Yeah, it hurts me every time I see it.
Oof, yeah.
Same with like all of the internal organ injuries, like liver lacerations.
Yeah, or like spleen lacerates a lot too. That's oof. So at the construction site, Jenny asks around to see if anyone is missing, like any workers didn't come in that day, and the site manager says that the victim was not one of their men. There's some fruit farms nearby, and they get a lot of migrant workers there, so he suggests that they check out there. On their walk to the farm, so one of Jenny's colleagues came to the scene as well, they pass this huge tree, and Jenny notices a strange piece of clothing in the tree that has like a pattern that seemed to match kind of what the decedent was wearing. So she just decides to climb up in the tree and go get it. Which, I mean, I like
her coworker's like, "What are you doing?"
Her coworker's like, "I don't think workers' comp covers this." She's like, "I don't think our benefits cover this kind of injury," and it was funny. And I thought it was interesting because she climbs up there barehanded, but then like up at the top she has gloves and a bag. She has
gloves on.
And she had pockets, maybe. I mean, that's why we wear our cargo pants. We got all our pockets and stuff. So she climbs up there to get the clothing, puts it in an evidence bag, and her coworker call the morgue and ask if the CT scan of the body had any broken bones. So like over the course of her investigating the scene, the body's already back at the morgue and the like initial examination of the body has started. So they did a CT scan. And of course there might be broken bones, specifically the legs, but Jenny's more concerned about any like broken arms or ribs, and she bags the clothes as evidence because she thinks this body may have fallen from the sky. And this was kind of a funny bit because they were talking to somebody who they thought was crazy, who was like, he just fell out of the sky, like aliens dropped him. And they're like, okay, you're crazy.
And then the one girl, the coworker, is like, oh, alien invasions. Like, he was taken in a UFO.
Yeah. And then they're like, wait, there's stuff in the tree.
And then they like pan up to the sky.
And they're like, maybe.
So then at the morgue, we have the body out on the autopsy table, and it's still covered in this sheet. And then on the table next to him, they have all of the clothing laid out. So this is the part where, like, I'm not sure if I want to give it a full red flag or not, because, like, you're at the autopsy. I just don't understand why the body is still covered. Like, I understand it for TV purposes.
Yeah.
I don't understand it for their purposes. Yeah. For examining and observing and noting everything.
Yeah. I think this would be fair to give a red flag, too, for this. I mean, obviously, like, we're not going to say don't watch this show because they covered the body for a television scene. Right. But, like, no. When we're seeing, like, no matter how gruesome it is, how broken the body is, you have to see it all. You have to document everything. You have to photograph everything. You have to, like,
no matter how messy it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some are very messy.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to just, you have to see it all. You can't keep part of it covered up. But yeah, I also thought they kept it covered up because they were implying that this person was pretty young. So I figured they didn't want to show like a mangled child or young teenage body on the TV.
Yeah. I didn't put that together. Yeah. That makes sense.
That was my first thought when I saw the size of the sheet in the road. I was like, oh, this is a younger person. And then she says, she's like, this could have been my son. And she has a teenage son. And yeah, so I was like, okay, maybe that's why they're keeping it covered, because they don't want to show like a full mangled child.
Yeah, okay, I can get that then.
But yeah, so I guess we'll give a red flag for forensics purposes. That's what we give red flags and green flags for, not for TV purposes. We understand TV purposes, but forensically, no, you're not going to keep the body covered in the morgue.
Not at all. No. Once you get to the morgue. But anyway, the CT scan showed that literally all of his bones were broken, every single one. And this usually only happens with high impact trauma, like getting hit by a train or some type of ridiculous fall, like jumper injuries.
Jumper injuries can be crazy because you won't see a lot, depending on how the person lands. You might not see a lot externally.
It's all internal, yeah.
And then you go to do full autopsy and everything is...
It's also crazy when their like tox comes back and we see how intoxicated they are, because that also plays a big part in like how much injury they have or how little injury they have.
The more like relaxed you are, you might not have as many broken bones. But if you like tense
they're not
up,
tensing up.
Yeah.
So the approximate range that they give this John Doe is anywhere from 16 to early 20s.
I think we should give a green flag for that. They didn't give like an
Yeah.
exact age. Like a lot of the times in this show, they'll give you an
They're like,
exact
oh, he's
time of death
17.
or an exact like estimate of. Yeah.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
I
green
like
flag
it's
for
more
range.
It's more accurate that they give a range than he was definitely 16 to 17. Like no, wide range, like early 20s or like or like mid to late teens. So I'm gonna give a green flag for that.
So there's loose skin around the abdominal area, and there's no fat around the organs. And they say that this suggests that there was a major weight loss in such a short amount of time. And there also appears to be frostbite on the fingertips. And that's a little weird because, like we said, this is in Canada. They're in Toronto. And the weather here is bright and sunny in this episode. They say it's around like August. So
Not getting frostbite.
You shouldn't, there's no snow. What?
Yeah.
But the frostbite isn't down to the dermis layer yet. So it's very superficial. It's on the epidermis.
Mm-hmm.
And Jenny wants to get a forensic sketch of the face over to police so they can start a missing persons report.
I know we've talked about this before, but like forensic sketching and any kind of like forensic artistry, like I'm in awe of every time.
I know.
Every time. Like
especially now in like 2025, like it's so good.
Yeah. I love it. I think it's so crazy that people's minds work like that and they can do that. It's like a superpower to me. So Jenny ends up getting a computer sketch of the face complete, and they checked with air traffic control, and there's been no reported deaths of skydiving or anything else like that. There was, however, a plane that was rerouted in the area due to a medical emergency, and it flew right over where the body was found. So this plane is now scheduled to leave in a few hours, and they want this plane grounded until they can question the pilot. So the medical emergency was some Canadian diplomat kids vomiting. I didn't realize those. Yeah, they just show like videos of like a bunch of kids vomiting on the plane.
Yeah.
And Jenny notices in the video of this that's been all over the internet apparently that one of the kids is wearing a jacket that looks like the jacket that she found in the tree. So she ends up going to talk to the pilot, and they suggest that maybe someone could have been hiding in the plane's wheel well. So that would be about 10 hours up in the air, freezing. Someone had to have been desperate enough to try this. And then they have a really interesting scene. Like she gets up in the wheel well.
Yes. She gets up, and then at some point she's dreaming, and she has all those feels like it's real, and she's really up there, and then it cuts and she's like sleeping literally in the bathtub.
That's another thing I just want to huge sidetrack on this show. That's something I really like about Coroner is they get into, so Jenny has a lot of trauma in her past, and she has
a lot of PTSD.
She has a lot of PTSD, and she has a lot of anxiety. And she still tries to do this job. And as somebody who does have anxiety and does do this job, like,
yeah, and she's
very seen.
She sleepwalks trying to process all of that.
Yes. I also sleepwalk when I'm stressed. And I eat when I'm stressed. I did the other day. I got junior mints in my bed.
Oh.
I had to wash my sheets.
The ones I gave you?
Yeah.
Oh.
They were the ones Jess gave me because I had a bad day. And I had some, and I must have eaten them in bed. I was like, what's this in my bed? And I was like,
chocolate everywhere.
I slept 8. Yeah. Not as traumatic as Jenny almost drowning, but yeah. I just think it's interesting to see because we're not robots.
They don't try to hide it in the show.
Yeah, it's like a focal point of her character is her overcoming and just handling her mental illness while doing a very mentally and emotionally taxing job. Yeah, and it's just cool to see in media.
Yeah. So at the office, there's a kid that comes forward and says that the missing person is his brother. Jenny takes him to go and view the body. And this brother had left Venezuela around 4 years ago on a student scholarship. And she asks him if there is any next of kin at home and that can like confirm when the deceased brother was last seen alive. And he says that their mother had died 2 years ago. So it's just him. Their mother was a diabetic, and with all the shortages, she couldn't get her insulin anymore.
It's all like broke my heart.
This was such a sad episode.
This is a very sad episode.
So both of the brothers, they were trying to help the one that was still back in Venezuela, like pay for him to come to Canada. The brother in Canada would send money home to Venezuela for his other brother, and he thinks that this brother had stowed away because of how hard it is to get a passport or a visa to come to Canada with like whatever laws there are. So the jacket that the deceased brother was wearing was one that he made himself. He sold it outside of airports, like trying to make money for the travel. And this is the jacket that was similar in the video because the rich kid had bought it outside of the airport in Venezuela. And that was like the big turning point in this episode.
Yeah.
So the living brother in Canada starts tearing apart this jacket. And Jenny's like, what are you doing? This is evidence. And he was like, no, our mom taught us to hide things in our clothing. And there is a hidden pocket where like the designer label is on the back of the jacket. And he finds there's like a stash of cards hidden there and a map of some sort.
Mm-hmm. There was like a tarot card, or maybe it wasn't a tarot card. I
No,
think it was like a prayer
little
card.
religious card.
It was
yeah.
like a prayer card, and it was like he was praying for a miracle. And I was like, this episode broke me, especially after seeing The Long Walk this weekend. Oh my God. So this is a map of Ottawa Capitol Airport. So they also got the recording from the plane's black box. This was an inside job. Somebody drew this boy a map of the airport, telling him how to sneak into the wheel well. So his brother said this wasn't his handwriting, so they know it was somebody else who did this. And also, if Spanish was your first language, like it was for them, wouldn't you write O instead of W for West? Like there were things that were clearly it was written by like a native English speaker. So could he have died from hypoxia or slowed his metabolism down into a deep sleep? And there's really no way to test for hypoxia, especially at this point. So they take another look at the autopsy findings, and there was a rupture in the aorta of the heart. So trauma can wrench it out, but the person has to be alive. So he was still alive when he hit the ground. So
Which also makes it even sadder.
He was just falling.
Yeah.
For, like, at that point, if that ever happens to me, knock on wood, it doesn't. I hope I just go unconscious. Like, I hope I just faint. Like, I hope I'm just,
like screaming so hard that I just go.
Just black out and then die. Like, I just don't want to be conscious for the fall. Like, knowing that it's coming. Can you imagine just being like, well, here we go? Like,
no, I couldn't. I don't want to imagine that.
There's no way out of this. God. So, yeah. So he was alive when he hit the ground. So they think this might be a homicide. So the brother said that he was sending money home to Ilario, who is the decedent. And Ilario collects this money and then trades it for US dollars. He would have had to find someone to smuggle him into the wheel well, maybe some kind of baggage handler. So that guy gets a map of the airport and a small cut of the money, but the big money would go to the person that turned a blind eye as he climbed up into the wheel well. The person who did the final walk around before the plane took off. And this would be the captain. So they had to reroute to a different airport, and they deployed the landing gear, and they did it too early. And they could have waited longer for it to deploy. There was somebody on the plane who was like, we don't have to do this right now. He
was like very insistent that like, no, we have to do it. It's easier this way.
Yeah. So the captain knew that there was a boy hiding in there and still deployed it too early. And there was no one to smuggle him out in Toronto. So the pilot knew he would get caught. So he did this intentionally to kill Ilario. Because they knew they were going to a different airport and he would have gotten caught smuggling someone.
Well, he got caught anyway.
He got caught. So Jenny ends up bringing Ilario's ashes to his brother. Green flag.
It's really nice.
Yeah. Just for being a good person, Jenny. And he says he couldn't claim his body because he's undocumented and it would be a big risk. And it was, Jenny acknowledges how big of a risk it was for him to come forward just to identify his brother because he's undocumented. And then they have this sad moment where he like scatters his ashes at the airport because he's like, I'm sorry, you can't bring him home. And he's like, where is home? And I was like,
I was expecting him to say like home is wherever like we're together. And I was like, that was gonna break down at that point.
No. And then he's like, there's no home. It still broke me. And he scatters the ashes where they're standing. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, this was a really emotional episode. And it was really interesting hearing them talk about the different like impact injuries as opposed to like, yes, you'll get impact injuries if a person is hit by a car. But when somebody falls from a great height, it's a very different type of impact injury and different bones that are broken, different trauma that you'll see. Yeah. There's no way like a pedestrian hit and run would have shattered every bone in his body. Like the way.
Because they said literally every single bone was broken.
Falling from a plane. Nightmare fuel.
So I think for our red flag, green flag count, we have 1 red flag and 3 green flags so far. So far, that's the end.
So we're going to talk about some other stories. But yeah, so I think Coroner usually passes for us.
Yeah, because Coroner is just such a good show.
Coroner's such a good show. There was a lot of other stuff going on in this episode.
There's a lot of backstory with her, Jenny's daughter. He dropped out of school.
Son.
Son, duh.
Yeah, he dropped out of high school. Didn't tell her.
He dropped out of high school.
He was gonna fake going to college.
Yes.
How long do you think
he was gonna
fake
that? Having the roommate too, and just go live with his friend. And Jenny was like, "What?
His boyfriend.
His boyfriend. And Jenny was like, "You're gonna pay rent. You have to go get a job." And then he was living in a tent outside.
He was
for a while.
"I can't pay rent. I'm gonna live in a tent." And I'm like, "This is so teenage."
And then he
angst.
tried to get a job at her work as a security guard, and the coworker that went with her to the little walk around to find the farm, she was like, "You have to have a high school diploma."
He ends up getting a job as a bartender at the end.
Yeah, like a washer.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah.
After he tried to get a drink, and they were like, "No."
They're like, yeah. But yeah, it was a really good, really sad and emotional episode. But yeah, a lot of interesting forensics happening, including climbing trees to grab evidence. I thought it was going to be like a parachute. I for sure was like, oh, somebody recreational parachuting and
I had no idea what I was thinking when she was climbing up the tree and what she was
getting.
And
saw a weird piece of fabric. I'm like, oh, maybe it's a piece of a parachute. And it didn't deploy right, or
I
somebody
think that
messed
would
with
be
it.
my first thought to go up and climb a tree to grab evidence.
Oh, I for sure would. I wouldn't say I'd do it well. I wouldn't say I wouldn't get injured.
I would call the fire department.
I would just climb a tree. Any excuse to climb, I'm like, yeah, let me climb that thing.
You were that kid on the playground.
Oh yeah, I still am. I still am that girl. Just love to climb stuff.
So him falling from the plane and being a stowaway made me think and search on Google a lot to try to see if there were any true crime stories of stowaways. And I found this article from allthat'sinteresting.com, and this is the tragic story of Keith Sapsford. He was a 14-year-old stowaway who fell just moments after takeoff. So on February 22nd, 1970, the 14-year-old boy made a tragic choice to become a stowaway. Desperate for adventure, the Australian teen snuck onto the tarmac at Sydney Airport and hid in the wheel well of a plane that was bound for Japan. But Sapsford was unaware that the compartment would reopen after liftoff, and he soon fell out of the sky to his death. At that moment, an amateur photographer named John Gilpin was taking pictures at the airport, never expecting, of course, someone to fall to their death, and he didn't even realize the tragedy he'd photographed until a week later after the film was developed.
Oh my God. Can you imagine?
Yeah. It's an infamous picture that was on this article.
Oh my God.
So why did he become a teenage runaway? He was born in 1956. He was raised in Randwick, a suburb of Sydney in New South Wales. His father was a university lecturer of mechanical and industrial engineering, and he described Keith as a curious kid who always had an urge to keep on the move. The teenager and his family had actually just taken an overseas trip in order to quench that thirst for him, but after they returned home, the sobering fact that the adventure was over really stuck with Sapsford, and simply put, he was just restless in Australia and wanted more. So the boy's family was at a loss, and ultimately it was decided that some semblance of discipline and formalized structure could whip him into shape. So he was put in this Roman Catholic institution, specializing in engaging with troubled children, and his family figured that would be the best chance to straighten him out. But thanks to the boy's overwhelming wanderlust, he managed to escape rather easily from the school. It was only a couple weeks after his arrival that he ran off towards Sydney Airport, and it's unclear whether or not he knew where the Japan-bound plane was heading when he climbed into its wheel well.
So after a couple of days on the run, Keith arrived at the Sydney airport, and at the time, regulations at major travel hubs were not nearly as strict as they are now. I talk about this all the time because I remember pre 9/11. I know that might not affect Australia, but I remember being able to go wait at the gate like
That's crazy.
to pick people up. Like just go and like, yeah, it's crazy.
I wish I knew something before 9/11 like that.
Yeah. I remember all the things that changed after that. I mean, obviously this is Australia, not the US, but still like
Yeah, this
everything's
is
more strict.
1970. I
Yeah.
feel like it was
Yeah.
just so different.
Yeah. So this allowed the teen to sneak right onto the tarmac with relative ease. So noticing a Douglas DC-8, I know what that is. You know those.
Yeah.
You know those planes.
Means you've seen them.
Preparing for boarding, Safford saw his opening and he went for it. It was a pure happenstance that amateur photographer John Gilpin was also in the same place at the same time, and he was just taking pictures at the airport, hoping one or two might be worthwhile. And he didn't know it at the time, but he would later capture Keith's fall, like skyfall, on camera. And it took a few hours for the plane to depart with Keith waiting in the compartment. And ultimately, the aircraft did as planned and it took off. And when the plane reopened its wheel compartment to retract its wheels, Keith fell to his fate. He fell 200 feet to his death, hitting the ground below. And upon realizing what happened, experts inspected the aircraft and found handprints and footprints, as well as threads from the boy's clothing inside the compartment. It was clear that he had spent his final moments in there. And to make matters all the more tragic, it's unlikely Safford would have survived even if he had plummeted to the ground. The freezing temperatures and severe lack of oxygen probably would have overwhelmed his body. And after all, he had only been wearing a short sleeve shirt and shorts. So he died at 14 years old on February 22nd, 1970.
Mm-hmm. So it was about a week later after the incident that Gilpin realized that he had captured this seemingly uneventful airport shoot. Developing his photographs in peace, he noticed the silhouette of a boy falling feet first from the plane, his hands raised, trying to like grab onto something, but he couldn't.
God, I never want to see this picture.
I saw it. It's really sad.
Yeah.
So it's an infamous snapshot that he captured. For the captain of the airplane, the purposeful decision to risk life and limb in order to stealthily board an airplane remains confounding. One thing that never ceases to amaze me, he said, that people will actually stow away inside the landing gear, the wheel well of a commercial airliner, and they expect to survive. Any individual who attempts such a feat is foolish, ignorant of the dangerous situation, and must be completely desperate. So they published this research thing in 2015 showing that just 1 in 4 airplane stowaways survive a flight. So unlike Keith, the survivors usually hitch a ride on short trips that reach lower heights as opposed to a typical cruising altitude, which is a lot higher. Mm-hmm. In one of 2 men that stowed away in 2015 on a flight from Johannesburg to London survived, he was later hospitalized due to his serious condition. The other man had died. Another stowaway survived a 2000 flight from Tahiti to Los Angeles, but he arrived with severe hypothermia.
Oh my God.
So statistically, there have only been 96 recorded stowaway attempts between 1947 and 2012 in wheel compartments of 85 flights. And of those 96 people, 73 had died and only 23 survived. For the grieving Sapsford family, their pain was confounded by the likelihood that their son would have died regardless of how carefully he planned his attempt. Keith Sapsford's father believed his son might have even been crushed by the retracting wheel. So Keith's father ultimately passed away at the age of 93 in 2015.
God, that makes me so sad. Oh my God. I can't. I mean, the tragedy of it all is just awful. I can never imagine being a person's family in this situation. But I'm just thinking how haunting that must be for the photographer also. Just to like, my photos that he probably thinks are kind of boring at the airport, and then finding
this. It's me. Like, I just don't even think about how cold it actually does get up there.
Yeah. I know. I was thinking that too. Like, you don't think that when you're on a plane.
Right. I'm like sweating.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like trying to turn the air up. But like, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And so tragic.
This is a sad episode. Sorry, guys.
Sorry, we're bumming you out. We're going to have a fun one next week, maybe. Jess is surprising me.
I'm surprising Alice with a new mini-sode since she surprised me with the Galapagos Affair.
Yeah.
last week.
I also lied to everybody. It wasn't streaming on Apple TV. And it also came out in 2025, not 2024. I lied on 2 podcasts about this movie. I was so confident about it too. Hey, if you've seen Eden though, let us know if it lines up with my surprise
I've
story to
heard
Jess.
really bad things about it.
Have you really? I haven't heard anything about it. Oh my god.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So sorry this episode was such a bummer.
Kind of a bummer.
But we did talk about a few interesting tidbits of information about like crush injuries and motor vehicle accidents and the trauma from that. So if you guys have any new episode suggestions for us, any new movies or shows to watch, feel free to give us a comment or DM us. We're always looking for something new to watch.
Yeah,
or if
we
you
are.
even have suggestions for mini-sodes moving forward, we want to hear from you guys. You can catch us on Instagram and TikTok at Inside the Morgue Pod. Email us. We're over at YouTube on Young Junk's page. Shout out to Young Junk. We're recording in their studio right now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. So this episode of Coroner did pass in terms of forensic accuracy, in our opinion.
Yeah.
But hey, if you disagree or you found any red or green flags if you watched this episode,
Let
us know. We'd love to talk about it.
In the meantime, we'll see you next time for a brand new dissection. Bye.
Bye.
Young John!